All right, here we go. Welcome, everyone. This is the 9th episode of the Do No Evil, Speak No Evil show, where I interview awesome individuals making a positive local impact. I'm your host, Blair Neher, a.k.a. the Chief Primate. I'm very excited. Today, my guest is Mark Smith, owner of the Midas chain in Richmond. Mark is a bit of a local celebrity of sort, a pillar in the nonprofit community, and a pioneer in the cause marketing space. I know you're a busy man, Mark, so thank you a ton for coming on the show.
I'm excited to be here, Blair. Looking forward to our conversation.
Awesome, man. Thank you. So we have to give a props out to our host, Optima Med, who has again let us use their facility. Optimum Ed is a higher education consulting firm based here in Richmond. Optimum Ed provides college admissions and financial aid coaching for students, with the end game being attendance at the best fit college at an affordable price leading to the right career. So thanks again, Tom Leahy and Optimum Ed. All right, man, let's get into it.
Great.
Awesome. So first things first, let's get into your story, man. You and your business are about so much more than just tires and oil changes, obviously. So let's hear your story and your passion.
So we are obviously full service car care. We do everything from oil changes to engines and all points in between. But that's more a vehicle, no pun intended, to let us do what we do in a community, which is to work with Feed More and Virginia Blood Service, St. Joseph's Villa, Shalom Farms, YMCA's, area schools, other things like that, to just help people understand the power of the possible.
Awesome. So can you get into a little bit about how you ended up in Richmond and working with Midas?
I was with Midas. I was with Midas Corporate. They hired me straight out of school. I graduated from Rutgers in '86. Went to work for them. Had a good career with them. The last 2 years, I covered North America and Western Europe. Traveled about 200 nights a year.
Wow.
Which was a drag. Yeah, wow is the right way to say it. And it was pre 9/11, so some of the security hassle we have today wasn't there, but it was still a drag. So sat down one night with the CEO, had a couple bottles of wine, and said, I want to switch sides of the fence. Richmond, Vegas, Sacramento, and Baton Rouge were available. My wife and I had spent some time here. We like the city. We like the people we've met. It's a pretty cool location with the beach, with the mountains, with D.C. not too far away. And it was a community that just felt like it got it. So in 1998, we bought the stores here in Richmond.
And if I remember correctly, you bought them from not just one person, but several different.
We bought 4 stores from 3 different guys. So 2 from one guy and 1 from 2 guys. And just really not looked back.
And they were kind of at odds, if I remember correctly.
The 3 guys did not like one another. That's about as far as we'll go. The closing was on different floors of the Fed because these gentlemen couldn't cohabitate the same floors.
The same even floor, much less the same room.
No, it wasn't rooms, it was floors.
All right, so you have a slogan I see across social media. It said, this business was born from one question. What if? What if a franchise auto shop could reimagine community investment? And I love that. I want to get into the concept of cause marketing. You're on the board for at least 3 nonprofits, and not only do you serve on these boards, your business is deeply vested in the nonprofit community with those different organizations through Feed More, Virginia Blood Services. So you're walking the walk, so to speak. Talk about the idea of cause marketing and how you really become a local champion.
I think cause marketing, Blair, is something we can all be a part of if we choose to. We all look around, we go, well, this shouldn't be happening and that shouldn't be happening. As you and I sit here and chat right now, there are 53,000 kids in Central Virginia who don't know if they're going to eat today. And I've got a big problem with that. As you've probably figured out, I've kind of worked through my shy and soft-spoken phase. So I just figured out what can we do about it. 9/11 happened. On a complete knee-jerk, I reached out to Bob Cardin, who was the CEO of Virginia Blood Service at the time, and said, we need blood. What if we do a blood drive where we give away oil changes for each pint of blood? And Bob had a mixed reaction to that, but we ended up trying it. And sometime in December, when we have our last blood drive of 2018, we'll collect our 23,000th pint of blood.
Wow.
It's been a great drive. We represent about 2.5% of the blood supply of Central Virginia. I've met amazing people. Every drive I meet somebody who thanks me for the blood that saved their mom or saved their dad or what have you. And along the way, then, we built relationships with Feed More. It was Central Virginia Food Bank at the time. and then meeting Dom at Shalom and Jenny at St. Joseph's. There's so much going on out there, Blair. All you've got to do is find out what turns you on. You know, we call it 6 by 18. 6 by 18, if you look at traditionally, it equals 108, right? Well, it does unless it doesn't. If you multiply the 6 inches between your ears by the 18 inches from your heart to your head, you find the intersection of your intellectual capacity and your emotional curiosity. And if you spend some time there, if you start asking what if, and that's a 2-word question I apply with my folks every day, with my teams every day, in my stores every day. What if we tried this? What if we did this? You can come up with some pretty cool stuff.
That's awesome. And, you know, I've tried to, you know, I saw you speak a couple years ago, and I've done a little bit through my business where I can. I'm a small web company. I've tried to do as much pro bono work as I can. And, you know, trying to find that perfect fit is tough sometimes. And I commend you for, you know, the programs you run. So let's talk a little bit more about those programs. So there's, you know, a pint of blood for an oil change. I know you have something for tires.
We do. So the blood drives, the way they work, you come in, you donate a pint of blood, we give you a free oil change. We've done that since 2001. As I mentioned a minute ago, we're going to collect our 23,000th pint here sometime later this year. The second year we did our blood drives, we got word that the food bank at the time, wasn't yet Feedmore, was out of turkeys for Thanksgiving. So I reached out to Faye Lohr, the lady who really built the Central Virginia Food Bank, carried it on her back for a long time. It wouldn't be what it is without her efforts. And said, you know, let's try something, let's figure it out. And I said, why don't we've got a blood drive coming up, why don't we donate a turkey in the name of everybody who donates to you, to the food bank, and see what we can do, having no idea what would happen, flying completely blind. And we ended up donating 83 turkeys.
Oh, nice.
So Faye said, why don't you come down, take a look around, let's chat. One thing led to another, and we forged a relationship that has gone on and goes on to this very day. That's been fun. It's something that engages me. It's an amazing crew, the Feedmore team. And then through that, we met Jenny Fryer out at St. Joseph's Villa, one of Richmond's well-kept secrets, best-kept secrets, and that's unfortunate because the work these folks do with education, with mental health care, with family domestic violence every day. And then I met Dom down at Shalom Farms. Dom has done a great job getting fresh produce into the communities in Richmond that need it, into food deserts around Richmond, getting produce over to Feedmore. And it's fun for me how all these dots connect. And we just keep cultivating those relationships and seeing what we can do to help them. We talk to them, I'd probably say monthly, if not more so. I spent some time at each of them week before last, just seeing what we can do. And, you know, let's go back to your comment for a minute, because I think that's something that holds a lot of people back. You call yourself a small company. Most people are small companies, you know, guys that do what you and I do for a living. We own our own business. We've got finite resources. We've got finite time, if that's not our most precious resource. What the nonprofits need, what the Richmond community needs, are people who are willing to go out and build bridges. A bridge is it's from a issue to a solution for anything they do. Some of those bridges are built on time. People think money all the time with nonprofits.
Yeah.
Time is a crazy good commodity. Look at your skill set with computers. That's a good commodity. Everybody's got something they can do. Not nearly enough people do something with that.
Yeah. And for me, it's something where I do exactly what I do for paying customers. I do websites. If I could pick up a website for a nonprofit, change it into something that's more capable, you know, usually they start on something like Wix or GoDaddy web builder, and it doesn't end up serving them. So if I can take that, and, you know, I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but if I can take that into a better platform, they can serve people better.
And everybody wins. Yeah. You know, that's such a valuable gift to them. I think that's largely unappreciated out in the public, because people think help a nonprofit, that means money. It means a lot more than money.
Yeah, it's usually, here's your donation.
Right.
Here's the big check. So talk about the term food deserts, because that's very interesting to me.
There are food deserts in every community in the States, every community probably in the world.
But what does that mean?
A food desert is a place that has no grocery store and no mass transit. It's got a C-store on the corner that sells too many calories for too much money. The kids there, the adults there, are predisposed to eat garbage. You know, they go in and they eat stuff they shouldn't be eating. So what Dom has done, a really creative solution with Shalom Farms and area C-stores like we're talking about, he's got produce columns. He comes in and wheels in this thing of produce and works with the store owner to get produce into the diets of these kids. And those food deserts are a real issue because these kids are usually multi-generational. They've lived there for more than one generation. They don't know any better. So we've got to get in. Feedmore addresses this through our mobile pantries. We'll bring a mobile pantry into a food desert. We'll give all the families we can service 100 pounds of food. And they go on about their day with more produce. Our only question is whether or not they've got a refrigerator.
Wow.
Because we've got both kits. We've got some that have perishable products. We've got some that don't. And you'd be frightened by the number of people that say no to that. Or if they've got a refrigerator, they don't have electricity because they had to pay the rent instead of the electricity, and they chose the latter, the former rather.
Wow, I had heard you say that. I just didn't know exactly what it meant. That's pretty impactful.
They're all over. They're in every community. If you go out and drive around, you'll find them. They're pretty. Once you see what they're talking about, they really stand out. But there are ways we can very effectively and reasonably efficiently work those areas.
Nice. And I know you also have a is it a blood platelets program?
We do platelets. We started with that as a real short test drive last year. Now we're doing it full bore. So during our blood drives, if you donate platelets, we give you a certificate for a free tire. Those platelets help area cancer patients right now.
And what is the difference between giving blood and giving platelets?
Whole blood is exactly what you think. It's a pint of blood, right? Mm-hmm. Just what you visualize. Platelets means they spin your platelets out of your blood and put the rest back. It's a more intensive process. Can take up to an hour. Some donors react not so well as others. Not a lot, but some do. So you've got to let people know going in, this is a big ask. You're going to be on that chair for an hour, hour and 15 minutes. So here's a Netflix thing. Pick out what you want to watch and watch it. VBS takes tremendous care of their donors in that regard. Their donor management is exceptional. But those platelets are needed right now. You know, we had a drive last weekend. We pushed it hard because think about what went down in South Carolina. Those people have people fighting cancer. They've got people who need whole blood. So right now they made the choice, okay, do I save everything in the house and swim away, or do I go donate blood? They're not donating blood. So we had a big ask here, and we had a huge turnout. That's pretty much typical of Richmond. Richmond gets it done when it wants to, when it needs to. And those platelets, we've seen a big spike in our platelet donations. I anticipate that getting bigger. And we're going to keep growing that program. It's only got a shelf life of 5 days, so the need is right now, and the need is real.
Oh, wow. So even after they take them, there's a very short time they can use it.
Yeah, those have got to be used in 5 days. Otherwise, they're no good.
Wow. So they put the blood back into you.
Mm-hmm. They put everything but the platelets back into you.
So what's the purpose? Why not just take the blood and take the platelets out?
Because it requires 3 pints of blood to create 1 pint of platelets. So it's inefficient. Whereas 1 pint of platelets equals 1 pint of platelets. So if you've got a donor willing enough, and more and more are, thankfully, if you've got a donor willing enough to donate platelets and put in the time, then that's a 1-to-1 transfer. Whereas with the other, there's a lot of inefficiency, there's a lot of slop.
Okay. I did not know that. That's interesting. I heard you say that program. That's I had no idea. Wow. So let's get a little bit into entrepreneurship. And as humble as you are, every time I hear you speak, you are a true hustler, and it shows in your business. I love to find out what really drives people to become entrepreneurs and to push through the grind that makes most people quit. So talk about that.
Okay, so the biggest thing for me is I don't play well with other children. Working up through corporate America, I started realizing relatively early on that there's going to reach a point where I'm going to say the wrong thing to the wrong person.
You're going to be out of here.
Which I probably did more than once. So I started exploring alternatives. I like everything that the Midas system is built on. It's built on a good model. It's built on the fact that cars are still here and they're going to be here for a while. So we came into this setup just with a mindset that we're going to go make this work. That was in '98. And then the cool thing about doing what you and I do for a living is we can be as successful as we choose to be. So you look around and you kind of weigh what works and what doesn't. You figure out, what if we try this and what if we try that? And I came to understand not too long after we really got rolling that the only unique variable I have is people. There isn't anything I own you can't buy. There isn't software I own you can't find. No equipment, nothing like that. If you want a piece of real estate and I want a piece of real estate, it comes down to who's going to pay more for it. So people. So my focus is really, really, really on my people, helping them grow, understanding what growth means to them, creating avenues of growth. And I don't think there's a lot unique there. There's no holy cow moment there, but I don't think people spend nearly enough time there.
Yeah, it's in so many businesses is get the most out of people and pay them the least amount. Mm-hmm. And it's a commodity where businesses like yours, you can obviously treat your people much better and your customers. And that kind of leads into the next topic, which is experience management. And last time I heard you speak, you touched on experience management, which is several steps above and beyond customer service. I got the impression this was a huge deal for you and your shops. You were really invested in it. This topic really interested me and got me thinking. So talk a little bit about experience management and the phases that a customer goes through in your business.
This is a 45-minute conversation. This is a topic I could talk about for 3 hours. Experience management, two really simple words, so many stories. So framing it around, a couple ideas. One is I'm in the car fix business, right? It's a grudge business. So you're driving here this afternoon to get ready for a chat. You hit the brake pedal on your car, unless that's your Harley on the parking lot, which wouldn't surprise me. And
it's not.
You hit the brakes and your brakes grind. Well, you're walking in not in a good mood. You're walking in with an unexpected expense. Maybe you know what you're talking about. Maybe you don't. So we've really got a key on that discomfort. We've got a key on that whole idea that we need to take the edge off of this experience and really build on it. So what we've done is we've gone out and looked at a lot of places, talked to a lot of people. The Cleveland Clinic up in, oddly enough, Cleveland. Danny Meyer's restaurant group out of New York, Union Square Hospitality Group. Other places that have done really unique, really compelling things. Look at Starbucks. Look at what Howard Schultz created. Here more locally, look at what Gary Glover does with Puritan. Look at what Gary Weiner does with Saxon Shoes. There's so many compelling people to watch and to call. And the neat thing about it, Blair, my experience is, if you call them, they talk to you. If you call them and say, hey, wow, you really impressed me. Can you give me 20 minutes of your story? Not only do most of them it's a conversation that can go on for years and years and years. Mm-hmm. And if you're willing to look at all of those things and then figure out, okay, how does this apply in my world? Where are my touch points? Where are the common denominators? Where can I really create a unique situation? My reality is a pretty simple one. You could love us. You could absolutely love Midas of Richmond. And I still might only see you 3 times a year, if that. I might see you for an oil change or 2, a state inspection annually, and maybe nothing else happens to your car. Well, a lot of life happens between 6 months, And so keeping us front of mind, keeping us aware, keeping people out there thinking about us, the next time you need car care, engage Midas of Richmond. That ties into our themes and our messaging for the nonprofits we support, because I want people thinking about us in other than, oh yeah, I need an oil change. Oh yeah, I need a new battery. Oh yeah, I need tires. That's what we do. That's not why we do it.
And, I'm guilty of pointing the finger at the car service industry as well as the marine service industry. And I've said more times than not, you could treat customers however you want in the marine industry. They have to come back. And the same can be said true of the automotive. You hear so many stories of people paying way too much or getting screwed over, and it's really, a big charge for you to take the lead the other way. And
you've got to. It's acquisition for us is tough. Acquisition being one of the 3 ways any business grows, the other 2 being retention and process management. But to acquire a new customer, to get a compelling enough story going where somebody who's never tried Midas of Richmond tries us, one, we better know you're a new customer. Two, we better nail it. And three, we need you to walk away going, yeah, they nailed it. And that's a challenge. That's something we work on every day.
I bet. Because like you said, usually when people come in, they're in a bad way. They're late, they're inconvenienced, and they think they're about to, you know, take it up the tailpipe and spend a bunch of money. And it's, you know, it's so common in the automotive and even more in the marine industry. Being a boat owner, I know it's like, yeah, take it or leave it, buddy. You know, that's just how it is. And it's like, okay, I'll take it. here's my tailpipe.
You can't help it. I mean, but the thing that people do have going for them is they've got choices, right? Probably less so in the marine industry. If you're on a lake, if you're on down in the bay in a big body of water, you've got a finite number of marinas. From my side of the equation, it seems to me like there's a fix-it shop on every corner. So if we piss somebody off, they're just going to go down the road.
There's plenty of oil change.
There's plenty of them.
Franchises as well. And, you know, some of them do not have great reputations in this town.
Right.
So it's just very interesting to me when you started speaking about that. And I've tried to figure out how I can better apply that to my business. While they're very different, I'm much more, you know, engaged and sold when somebody comes to me already. It's they're sold on me and my company before, but to keep them that happy through the whole process is something that I still have to work on and improve, because things come up.
I think, Blair, that's an area that if we're not improving, we're dying. If we're not paying attention to it, if we're not watching it, because it's so easy to fall back to the middle of the bell curve, you know, to be average. I've got 50% better than me. I've got 50% worse. I'm doing okay. All your headwinds kind of push you in that direction. So to be out there 2 or 3 deviations down the mean, and coffee, and draw blood, it's all commodities. You know, I change oil for a living. You make websites for a living. The guy next door is a dentist. He fixes teeth. The other guy next door is a urologist. He does what he does. It's all the same, unless we decide it's not going to be.
Yeah, and it's easy to fall into, you know, like you said, the middle of the bell curve. Oh, that's just how it is. Or you can't make everybody happy, but you have to, despite those challenges and those cliches, and you really do. So thank you for that. So I've got a little story from our mutual friend, JT Stevens. JT says you showed up for, it was either a TV or a recording session, and they were trying to prep you for multiple takes and scripts, and to everyone's surprise, you told them, no, I'm just going to do it. And you stood up, you did your 30-second spiel, and you nailed it on the first try. And, you know, every time I've seen you speak, you have a very commanding presence, you know, just a powerful speaker. So please talk a little bit about that skill and how you got to where you are now, because I heard you say that you got over your shy phase, so I'm assuming this isn't how it always was.
So this is a funny story, and it ties back to experience management. Years ago, a lady came in to Short Pump. We use first names, Natalie, and we did some work for her, and she left, and she called back rather frantic a few minutes later and said something's wrong. And the big and little is we blew up Natalie's van.
Oh no!
So that's kind of the start. So it's an auspicious beginning. We blew up her van, but we got it all fixed. Got her in a rental, got everything going, fixed the van, no charge to her. Next day, in walks a guy, and his name's Michael. Says, I am looking to speak to Mark Smith. I said, well, who are you? I am Natalie's husband, Michael. And I'm going, this is going to be a fun conversation. This is just going to be a ball. And it couldn't have gone better. So Michael said, you know, in the world, things happen. It's not that they happen, it's how you respond to them. I'm incredibly impressed by what you did with Natalie and what you did for Natalie. Do you know anything about me? And I said, nope. Well, Michael was with radio stations in the area at the time, and we ended up having a conversation and just starting to go down a path. And that was, boy, 17-ish years ago. Today, Michael is one of my most trusted business confidants. He is somebody I talk to every week, if not multiple times a week. Big issues, little issues, venting issues. So one day Michael says, you should do your own radio commercials. And I said, no. Not going to happen. That's Frankenstein in a can. Just a really super bad idea. And he said, humor me. Try me. I said, no. He said, try me. So we walk into a recording studio, and he puts a script in front of me and says, just read this. And I read this script, and it was audibly dangerous. It was just not fit for human consumption. It was bad. I don't know what the 3 steps south of bad are, but it was there.
The writing or your performance?
No, my performance.
Okay.
My performance was somewhere between, let's call it Ren and Stimpy and Beavis and Butthead. It was terrible. So Michael's looking at me going, wow, I had higher hopes for you. He said, let's try something. Take a step back, shake your head like a dog does, do that waka waka thing. Just walk up to the microphone and talk. I'm going to give you signs in the background, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Just talk. And we did that. Much better. So that was our first radio commercial, probably 14, 15 years ago. And now what we do is we just agree on where, and JT and his team or Ariel and their team show up with the cameras. I mic up and we do 30-second TV spots and we're done in 45 seconds. We do 60-second radio spots and we're done in 70 seconds. And we're over and out. Michael can speak better to this than I can. Michael says this is just unheard of. It's the only thing I know how to do. I mean, Blair, I believe so ardently in how we do what we do and what I want to do and the service I think everybody should expect when it comes to car care, that talking about it this candidly is not a problem for me. The catch is I better deliver what I promise. Because if I don't, it's all for naught. But if I do, then it works. And our radio spots, our TV spots get good play and get great feedback. My wife's getting active in them now, allowing me to meet more women, and there's some fun stuff you can do with them. And it just really sets you apart.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard your commercials, and I'm sure everybody else in Richmond has, and you sound like one of the DJs, and it's just, I guess it's just, so there's no real training or there's no path, that it's just that you knew you had to be passionate and correct about what you had to say, and it just comes out.
It's literally as simple as that. Now what they've got behind the guy I'm talking to, it's a setup much like you and I have. Behind the guy who's recording me, there's a big stopwatch on the wall. It counts down from 60. So I know right where I'm at. And I know, I need to be here at 45. I need to be here at 30. I need to be here at 15. I need to be here at 5. And then I'm done.
That's impressive. I have a script in front of me that I cheat with, and I murder this almost every time. And I did it on the introduction, and so I'm on my 9th show, but I haven't been doing it 14 years, so maybe by then I won't be so bad.
Again, if I worked off scripts, I don't think the enemy would be so happy. I hope there's not a recording of that spot anywhere to this day. There used to be. I heard it, and it still makes me cringe. But yeah, that would just scare little kids. It just wouldn't be good. Was
it just monotone, or did you just mess up the words, or?
It was a weird series of tone changes and pitch changes and voice inflection changes and foreign languages and speaking in tongues. It was just unfit for human consumption.
Well, that's and so when we went to have you at the OEW hub, the Operation Enduring Warrior, I think it's been 2 years now. JT told the story, and I immediately caught my interest. I was like, wow, I wish I could speak anywhere remotely like that. And I was helping Crystal Paget, who's a good friend of mine. She was trying to make a video for her website. And the only thing that came out of that was enough outtakes to make a blooper reel of her just cussing every time she would get about halfway through and mess up. So her and I looked at each other like, how do you do that? And so that's very cool. It's your answer is very interesting. I was expecting, I took this course or I worked with this trainer. So your answer is quite interesting.
I think maybe, Blair, people put too much work into it. They walk up to a microphone and they expect to sound like this radio guy or this radio woman. Just be you. If you do this, if you do what you do for a living, if you do this talk show we're doing, if you get out on media, just be you. It's the same guy that people are going to meet when they come in the stores. It's the same woman that the people are going to meet when they go in her store. Be you. Everybody else is already taken anyway. So just be what you got.
Absolutely. So what is your take on being the present voice and the persona in, let's say, social media channels?
Boy, so much going on there. That's a great question. We keep an active Facebook presence. We keep an active linked presence. We've got a little bit of Twitter presence. We're starting to get an Instagram, although I'm struggling with that a little bit. In today's world, you've got to be there, right? When you and I were kids, I might be a little bit older than you, but when we were kids, none of this existed.
No, thank God.
10, 15 years ago.
Thank God.
And now it rules the airwaves. I had a conversation with some friends last night. They cut the cable. How often do we hear that anymore? I don't do TV anymore. I don't do historical media channels anymore. I don't do radio. I don't do this. I don't do that. I do Simplify. I do, we've got to figure out how to put ourselves in that cost effectively, cost efficiently. I had a conversation yesterday. We're starting to do our 19 marketing planning. And I had a conversation yesterday about experiential social campaign marketing, a phrase I'm not familiar with. Now that I understand it, I'm starting to understand it. It makes sense. It's about the experiences you create with your social media campaigns. When's the last time anybody really thought about, I'm creating an experience with what I'm doing here versus I'm just sending out a blurb, I'm just sending out a message, So it's intriguing to me because it's new, it's different. It allows us to do some different things. We do blood drive YouTubes. We do all sorts of stuff. I've met some really crazy cool people, yourself and, kids in high school who come up with their camera and their phone and can we do an interview? Who did that 20 years ago? And
right.
Now it's a little 16-year-old girl going, you mind if I interview you? Sure, let's rock. So you've got to kind of weave that in while at the same time trying to figure out where the trigger point is between the guys our age who may still listen to the radio and traditional TV marketing. And what do you do? Where do you do? There's a finite budget, to be sure. There's a finite amount of time you can invest. And boy, it feels some days like the opportunities to explore are infinite.
Absolutely.
So where do you balance that? I struggle with that.
Yeah, I think everybody does. What platform should I be on? Should I be on Twitter? Should I be on Instagram? So that's interesting what you say about the experiential. Is that how you said it? Mm-hmm. And we run social media campaigns for clients, and one of our drivers is getting the people who interface with the business out there. And so if you follow the social media channel and you see, Becky at the front counter and you meet Becky, when you go in, that trust factor is so much higher and so much, when you put a face to even not the owner, just the employees. Here's Bob, the installer for the flooring client. When Bob shows up at your house and you've seen him on the social media channels, that's huge. Mm-hmm. And I'll have to read more about the experiential piece of it, but I think that kind of ties in.
It's called outbound experiential campaign management, and it makes a lot of sense.
Interesting.
But let's go where you're going for a minute, because it goes back to what I talked about before with people. Boy, I think it's hard for me to say there's a more critical variable in the equation. The cool thing about my teams is they've been with me for quite a while. You'll meet the same people. You'll see the same faces. You'll have the same conversations. You've dealt with my people long enough that they know your kid goes to JMU, or your kid goes to UVA, or your kid just had her first baby. And these are all conversation starters, right? Because I don't care what business you're in. The first thing we need is awareness, because people aren't going to try any business unless they're aware of it. They give you a shot. Well, do they come back or not? If they come back, they're a fan. You did something compelling enough to make them come back. Well, that's kind of a spectrum, right? So you start with awareness, you go to fandom, and then you maybe go to brand champions, which is really cool. When you get people out there on social media talking about you, championing you, that's what we're all after. That third-party voice who's not paid, not directly affiliated, no professional partnerships. Those are the people out singing your praises. You got to spend a lot of time there. You got to work that continuum all the time, because that's where you find success.
Yeah, I don't think there's any more valuable voice than that person. Mm-hmm. I could sit there all day and say, I make great websites, but when Joe says, hey, Blair knows what he's doing, he can make a website, mm-hmm. make it look for you, there's no bigger champion. And I think a lot of times that manifests itself in reviews. Like Google and Facebook reviews are bigger than they ever have been. Mm-hmm. And they used to be kind of disjointed. Yelp used to be a player in that, but a lot less now. So, and getting your customers, or having a vehicle for your customers to easily leave you a review when they're happy, is huge. It's one of the programs we push. So it kind of fits into that brand champion. When they leave you a stellar review, it's them speaking on your behalf. But even more so when somebody's out, when they hear, yeah, I need an oil change, and they go, hey, you should go to Midas because X, Y, and Z. It doesn't get any better.
It doesn't get any better. It opens the door, to long-term relationships. It's non-traditional ways to put yourselves in front of people. And kind of like what we do with schools and oil change programs and things like that. We just want different faces.
And it all ties into that customer acquisition.
100%.
Awesome, man. So let's talk about your upcoming events. Blood drives, anything with Feed More, any of the nonprofit and Midas events coming up.
Oh yeah, always. We had a blood drive last weekend, which was good timing because the folks down in the Carolinas need help. Had a great turnout, so we'll have our next blood drive in December. December 5, I believe. Don't hold me to that. Doug Pick and Doug is the CEO of Feed More, sometime here in the next 2 weeks, will announce the most robust Feed Kids program that Midas of Richmond has ever been a part of. I'm excited about that. We're always working with Shalom. We're always working with St. Joseph's Villa. We work a lot with Goochland Cares, formerly the Goochland Free Clinic out on Goochland. Great group of people. We work with the Y's in the area to get kids to summer camp, to get kids to after-school programs. We've historically, Blair, stuck with the same group of people, which we get challenged on a lot. My response to those challenges are simple. The day that Doug and I can lock the doors at Feed More, we walk out, we shake each other's hand, we pat each other on the back, and we go on about our day because this isn't an issue anymore, is the day that I'll change channels. Right now, there's 53,000 kids, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, that won't eat today, may not eat today. I got a big problem with that. So we've got to go out and attack that. And that's a daily event, because you need that focus, you need that energy. There are a lot of BSOs we get buried by every day in the media. BSO, a bright, shiny object. It's the latest catastrophe, it's the latest this, it's the latest that. And please understand, I am not making light of that. Those are tragic events. What just happened down in the Carolinas, there's an earthquake somewhere, there's a tsunami somewhere. Those are tragic events. Life-changing for generations in some cases. You look at the stuff they're going on down in Cuba, down in Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
That's and what was that, a year ago? That's crazy.
They just now got power everywhere.
But you know what? I've got 53,000 kids in Richmond, Virginia, which is where I live, which is where we live, which is where we celebrate friends and family. That's where my energy will be until I don't have any energy to give anymore. So we are constantly either on site at Feedmore. I'm there multiple times a week. We're just walking through, shaking hands, working with our volunteers, working with our staff, letting people know we appreciate them. Go down and spend a few minutes with Dom on the farm, Shalom Farms. That's the challenge, really, for any events coming up for anybody. Be a part of it. Boy, look at what the Gallaghers have done in memory of Cameron Gallagher, an amazing little girl, tragic set of events. They've made a game-changing memory out of it.
Yeah.
And that's all proof to the power of the possible. That's an amazing testimony of how cool the Gallagher family is. You look around any community and you find that. And then you create your own event. You create your own awareness. You create your own passion. And if you stick with it long enough, I'm here to tell you, gravitational pull will pull other people in. So we're just going to keep doing what we do. We're going to keep feeding kids. We're going to. So you've got a situation where, think about a kid who hasn't eaten. So the story I talk about is, we call this a story of next. About every quarter, we get together with all our volunteer staff at Feedmore, and we just have an information exchange. This is what's going on the field, any stories to tell. So we're at one of these things. This was 2 or 3 years ago. Woman raises her hand and said, I want to talk about my backpack delivery last weekend. So we give out a little over 2,000 backpacks a weekend to chronically hungry kids. We feed them Monday through Friday in school. These backpacks feed them Friday through Monday. She said, I got to my school, I was running late. There wasn't anybody around. No buses, no cars, no kids, no parents, teachers. There was one little boy sitting on the curb. She estimates he was 5 or 6 years old. She walked up to him and said, come with me. Let's figure out where you're supposed to be and let's find somebody. It's not right for you to be out of here. You're too little to be out here by yourself. He ignored her. She said, come on, let's go inside. We'll find a principal or a teacher. We'll figure out where you're supposed to be. Let's go. He said, leave me alone. I'm next. She said, you're next. He said, there's one more backpack of food inside the school. My teachers told me if the kid who's supposed to get it doesn't show up, she's going to give it for me. I'm next for food. So think about this little kid. He's not thinking about hanging with his friends. He's not thinking about going home and doing his homework. He's not thinking about Xbox. He's radar locked on a small backpack of food that you and I would take for granted. And that's the only thing on his mind. These kids need to get healthy food in their bellies to become students, to engage in learning, to explore life. I could go on and on about this, but I believe in it 100%.
So we're both in Synapse and we're involved, and that's the good way for businesses to get involved. How can anybody that's listening contribute to Feedmore?
Feedmore.org. Sign on, check it out. You can donate online. You can become a volunteer.
So volunteer opportunities as well.
Every day. We have 7,500 active volunteers a month. We don't do what we do without them. Doug and his team do an amazing job with a paid staff in the mid-90s. Last year, they moved 28 million pounds of food, our biggest year ever. And they did that through the power of our volunteer network. But, I challenge people, Blair, to go one step out from that, because there are people out there that don't believe hunger is an issue. I don't care. Find something that turns you on and become a part of the solution for it. It might be housing. It might be pets. It might be animals. It might be performing arts. There's not a right answer here. The right answer is for everybody to engage in something she or he believes in and become a part of the solution. Because if you let other people make your decisions for you, they will. I promise you, they will. We're seeing that in Washington right now. If you engage, you become a part of the solution, you explore the power of the possible, you find your own 6x18, you can do amazing things, you can have amazing impact, and you can become the brand champion every nonprofit on this planet wants.
So the same term, brand champion for our businesses, brand champion for nonprofits.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you put a microphone in front of me anywhere I go, and I will talk about feeding. I'll talk about the efficiencies of it from a business operator's perspective. I'll talk about the incredible results they create. But the same can just as quickly be said for Todd and Michelle and Jenny at VBS, for Jenny and her team over at St. Joseph's, for Dom and his team down at Shalom, and for so many other nonprofits that just really get it.
Yeah. Awesome, man. So, on a little bit of a lighter note, I see you, I'm friends with you on Facebook. You know how to grill and do some serious grilling. Talk about that a little bit, because I think I see you with a couple different kinds of grills, maybe a smoker and a stone grill. Or
so it's a minor addiction, not nothing to be institutionalized about, but it's a minor addiction. I love to cook. I always have. We've got a big green egg smoker. I use it 2 or 3 times a week. We've got a normal gas grill when you're quick and you just want to do something. I just bought an open fire grill from North Fork Ironworks up in Long Island. I cannot wait to get.
Okay.
I am told it's about 3 weeks away, and I'll start really practicing with open fire food, which I'm eager to get into.
Interesting.
But the fun thing for me is I live in a neighborhood where there's several people that love to grill. So we just have a running your house, my house, his house, her house thing. But yes, I enjoy cooking for Patty. I enjoy cooking for friends. I enjoy cooking for strangers. It's not unusual for there to be a grill fired up at Short Pump where my office is. In fact, I think they were doing that when I left to come here. It goes to lessons I've learned about good food versus other, and just creating a diet that people like to eat. Food is such a fun thing because it brings people together, Blair. If we can sit down and genuinely share a meal, the food prep and the cooking is fun, but the sharing it is what, to me, is just engaging, because a good steak over a good bottle of wine, no offense to you veggies, good steak with a good bottle of wine, it's a fun conversation. And I don't think there's nearly enough conversation in this world.
Yeah, that's the second part I was going to bring up is I've seen the grill at Midas going to town cooking rows of chicken or cooking rows of whatever for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So your passions for that's bleeding into your business.
Well, it's either that or my guys start talking and they walk over to Taco Bell, which makes me crazy. I guess I shouldn't say the name. They walk over to the unnamed Mexican franchise across the street.
Mexican.
And, I guess to each his own, but boy, if I'm going to do barbecue chicken on the grill versus a taco with an unnamed, unsourced mystery meat, I'm going chicken breast. I'm going barbecue chicken.
Or taco made out of a Dorito.
Yeah, there's that.
It's just unnatural.
I think it's an alternative, it's an alternative, and no disrespect to those folks. They, in some quarters, make a fabulous product. I just think it's better to eat good food.
Yeah, it's just something else. It's just not what you expect to see on social media out of your local auto shop. Is a picture outside with a grill going with a bunch of chicken and customers and employees and everybody eating.
Oh, the fun thing about that, Blair, is we get customers. Customers will come out. What do you want in your burger? And 2 or 3 customers will line up. It's not as if you can eat, but not you.
Yeah, it looks like you just feed whoever.
I want to talk about Midas of Richmond in every non-automotive way we can. If you come to Short Pump, you meet our chief greeting officers. We've got 3 CGOs. Dudley, a 14-year-old golden retriever, Gumbo, a 10-year-old golden retriever, and little Eddie, a 1-year-old golden retriever. They're our CGOs, chief greeting officers. They come with me every day. We have people come in and see them every week. I can tell you who's coming in on Tuesdays. I can tell you who's this, who's that. And we talk about them on social media. We, talking about, and this is what pays my bills, so I need to be careful here, but talking about brakes or talking about tires, everybody does it. Our tires are better than your tires. Well, no, they're not. It's the same tire. It's the same Michelin tire. It's the same brake pad. They don't taste particularly well. They're very chewy. But if you could have conversations about stuff, it's the same thing I talk to my guys about. You know, when you look at a car and you see a bumper sticker that says, "My pit bull's smarter than your honor student," ask them the name of their pit bull. Where did your pit bull go to school? How did you develop that skill? That's really neat. Tell me more. Get people, start conversations, you know? I think the world needs more conversations.
It's a powerful statement. All right, man. So we've named a lot of people and a lot of organizations and events. Are there any other shout outs, events, engagements, anything else you want to mention before we wrap up?
You know, you said it, and shame on me. The Synapse Group, an amazing group, but that's how you and I came to know one another.
Absolutely.
What's been created there with the now 33? Is that the right number?
Yeah, I think so.
Groups, the unique partnership between nonprofit and for-profit. You know, we've got a tagline that says, "Cars don't work without proper care, neither do communities." That's why Midas of Richmond does both. I think Synapse has a more powerful tagline, and that is that communities don't work without proper care, neither do businesses. That's why Synapse creates both. I think what has been created there is amazing. All over Central Virginia.
Charlottesville and Coastal Richmond, or Coastal Virginia is what they're calling it. So Virginia Beach Tidewater.
We're almost international. You know, but you know, take the time to engage in those things. Boy, take the time to explore. Take the time to get out. Step away from the phone. Step away from the texting. Richmond is such a cool place to live. It's such a cool place to do business. You meet amazing people. You hear some crazy cool stories. Become a part of that.
Yeah, and I had Keith on. He was the guest before last, and finally got to showcase Synapse because I've been talking about it, because most of the people I've had on are either Synapse member or related to, and I try to tell every business person I come across, you gotta get in Synapse. You gotta find a nonprofit that you can be passionate about, that you can attach yourself to, and if you visit enough hub meetings, you're gonna find one. Something's gonna grab you, and you know, it just attracts the right kind of person. There's so many people in cheap suits pushing cards in people's hands in this town, in any town. But on the other side, alternatively, there are so many people that are doing the right thing and doing the good thing in this town, and a lot of them are in Synapse, and we're very lucky to have it. And I give Keith credit for building something I wouldn't be able to have gone out on my own without it. There's no way.
An incredibly creative idea. I mean, and the wherewithal, just the sheer shoulder strength that he and Steven have put into getting it to where it's at, getting us talking about it, and to a point you just made that I think is really important. You know, jump hubs. That's what put me at Unos the other day. I'd heard of them, didn't know of them, but look at what Lisa and her team do.
That's amazing.
And an incredibly important thing with organ donation. You learn stuff. Because so many people are shy about jumping in, you know. They're not going to make that call. They're not going to say, "Hey, tell me more." Synapse is a really safe way and a very organized way to learn a little bit about this, a little bit about that, a little bit about that. And sooner or later, to your comment, you're going to find something that catches you. Yeah. So spend some time there. Stop. Stick a root or two in the mud. Spend some time there and just see what grows.
Absolutely. And I imagine that most of the people listening, especially today, are going to be business people. So you heard it from Mark Smith himself. Get in Synapse. It's only going to help your business, and and it's going to grow you personally. If you can find a way to give and find a way to contribute, it just comes back and folds. And it has for me and anybody that I know that's put the time in. It's just the returns are huge, and that's a selfish reason, but it's the truth. Right. It's the absolute truth. All right, man. Well, that's it. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you for coming on the show today, Mark. It was a pleasure to have you. So everybody have a positive and productive day. Thanks
a lot. Take care.